Yeah, the doctor says I'm gonna be alright. I don't know, it was probably just something with stress or something. I don't really know. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really don't know what it was. I mean, yeah. 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 Yeah, the new place is great, by the way. Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. What? Oh yeah, I'm just unpacking some things. I'm gonna call you back. I'm gonna port that! There are literally over 1 million different webcomics out on the net, and even long before I made the webcomic relief, I'd read a fuck ton of them. How did I acquire the time to read all this? These webcomics were up to several thousand of strips long, and those were just the ones I followed, not to mention the fucking billion of other webcomics I read through while waiting on the other comics to upload new strips. The answer is simple. I was an office bitch. And no! Don't you fucking dare link me the fucking webcomic called Office Bitch. I will find you and I will kick you in your bitch face. But yeah, I was working a shitty job at a travel company where I'd booked trips for people who called in. Not surprising anyone besides my boss at the time, not many, if any at all, called in outside of the summer and holidays. So I was left sitting on my ass in front of a computer. And that's where I found the webcomic that just got me. The protagonist of the story was a nice, friendly guy who enjoyed drinking with his friends, who had a shit job, constantly got friend-zoned by girls, and who just seemed to want to take each day with his head held high. Questionable Content was a good and nice story that took itself nice and easy. There were no sudden zombie invasion or dead babies like its competition. Okay, so it had a girl with her father killing himself in front of her. I'm sensing a pattern here. Questionable Content is a slice-of-life webcomic written and drawn by Jeff Jack. It was launched on August 1st, 2003, and Jeff is currently making a living exclusively from Questionable Content merchandising and advertising. In 2011, Jeff managed to round his 2000th strip and is still going strong. Martin, the protagonist of the story, isn't particularly fond of his life. He's living alone with his creepy homicidal Anthro PC pin size, but other than that, he is living a dull and boring life. So already you can relate. If you are as pathetic as me, that is. But Martin's life changes drastically when a trip to the bar allows him to meet Faye. Faye turns out to be a unique and fun woman, and Martin immediately takes a liking to her. Some time passes after meeting Faye before she shows up on Martin's doorstep after having set her entire apartment block on fire by accident while cooking. Finally someone who's a worse chef than me. Martin lets Faye stay at his place, and what should have been just a night on the couch turns out to be a lovely friendship between the two, and Faye introduces Martin into her world, thus introducing Martin to a wide array of cast and situations. Spanning from everything between sneaking into rock concerts, moving, and fending off FBI agents that are trying to destroy a doomsday laser. I'm so not even kidding. Questionable Content is a lot like Girls with Slingshots in the idea that you take a deep and lovable set of characters and introduce them to various situations that helps the characters grow. It is a perfect example that if you just introduce some really great characters, they'll pretty much work out everything themselves. So don't ever doubt the importance of great characters. But obviously we also need to confront the negative things about this comic. Luckily they are few and far between, but there is one that keeps striking me with almost every page, at least in the beginning. The comic and the jokes are good, but the same setup and punchline formula is used almost all the time. The jokes are still funny, but they could be so much more fun if the formula was different. Aspiring webcomic artists, take note. The strips are usually set up with 4 panels. The first one is an introducing panel. What it does, it sets the setting. Where are we in accordance to the last strip, who is involved in the strip, and so forth. The 2 next panels are the setup panels, or the body. They help set up what will happen in the last panel. It can either be a setup for a joke or a climax, all depending on what comic you're making. And the last panel is the climax panel. This is where you typically want either the punchline for the joke or the climax that'll keep the reader interested in what's going to happen in the next strip. Now, I'm not saying this formula should be different, because it's pretty hard to change. You can't really have the setup before the punchline, that would just be weird. Now, what I mind is that the last setup panel, the characters almost always start a train of thought, use a figure of speech or a comparison, and the punchline is more or less the other characters following that train of thought. Again, it's fun, but unfortunately it gets predictable and sadly influences the fun you could get. But then again, that might just be the type of jokes you get, like dick jokes from Least I Could Do. The last problem I have is that, well, the bands. The comic is to bands what, say, hijinks ensue is to gaming. There are plenty of jokes not centered around that particular subject, but every now and then they go off about that one thing. But this is just me not listening to that type of music, so I can't fault the comic in any way for that. And that is my problem, not the comics. Plus, even I can appreciate how self-aware the jokes are. As with all the other comics I grew up with and ended up buying, I had and still have a big love for when you can see the art getting better and better as the comic progresses. I guess it is because you can tell that somewhere down the line these webcomic artists were just normal amateurs, and if you hung in there, even you could be this good. Now, let me level with you guys for a minute here. The way Ctrl-Alt-Delete introduced their new art was okay. The way Least I Could Do did it was great. The way Questionable Content does it is fucking genius! I think Jeff knew perfectly well that when he began, his art was lacking, to say the least. So he changed up the art with small things and sort of managed to mix them into the comic somehow. Martin's hair gets a do-over and Jeff explains it with him getting a haircut. The backgrounds gets prettier, and it's because the areas get remodeled or they move to a different place. It is small changes all the time. So small that you won't notice until you stop up and go, wait a minute. Now, let's be fair here. There are a lot of stuff this comic has going for it. It has a wonderful cast, the universe is excellent, the premise is well established and executed, and its jokes are often hilarious. But the art... it's not bad. Not at all. It's okay, but it feels stiff. Like, actions are minimal, and this comic apparently believes the reader has Superman eyes. And I'm even wearing glasses, though they're mostly just a visual thing. At one point in the comic, our attention is pointed out to Faye having a scar on her collarbone, and even when they pointed it out, I could hardly see it. Even in print, that shit is a bitch to find. But with that said, the art is not bad at all. It's just not on par with the other stuff that is super great. What I'm most amazed with is definitely the backgrounds, cause oh my god, has there been put a lot of work into every background, and it's rare that the same background is used unless it's to let the reader know where it takes place. And if you haven't drawn your own backgrounds before and don't know how hard it is, it's kinda like painting a house with finger paint. Like Girls with Slingshots, this comic is driven by the characters and how they react to certain things. The plot in itself is basically non-existent, so it is almost necessary that the characters are deep enough to make their own small plots and stories. You'd be surprised how much fun you can get from visiting a shrink and browsing apartments, as long as you got a great cast. First of all, we got the protagonist Martin. There isn't any doubt that the comic is a rather big ego-rubbing comic, cause not only does Jeff and Martin share looks and interests, but have also gone through roughly the same jobs and experiences. Furthermore, Martin somehow almost always manages to say just the right thing and go out of his way to help out when he can. This comic, however, stands as a shining example that even if you are having an ego-rubbing comic, it can still be a good comic. Next up is Faye. Faye is not only rather tomboyish, but also rather violent. She is the type of girl who shows her affection by punching you in the dick. She has had some troubles in the past that has made her that way, and she's actually a rather deep and well-written character. She also shows that there is nothing wrong with a girl with a little junk in her trunk.
There's a name for men like me that like women like that. We're called heterosexuals.
Next we have Dora. Dora is a lovely young girl who is very outgoing and is not only Faye's best friend, but also her boss, and strangely enough seems to be her contrast. While Faye may punch people, Dora will... okay, she might kick them. Bad example, they're opposites and I like that. Next one! Pin size. I could talk about a lot of the characters, and I could sit here till the end of days doing so if I had to cover each and every character, but I just needed to take pin size into the equation. There is this thing with popular webcomics that they sort of need a unique character that sort of symbolizes their comic, be it a talking cactus, a talking Xbox, a surprisingly clever toddler, or talking sperm. I swear I just bought it to make the transport cheaper. Really. Pin size is Martin's Anthro PC that seems to be more trouble than he's worth. But if Bruce from 30 or High was supposed to be annoying and likable, then take notice. This is how you do it. Pin size is totally unique and his jokes are hilarious. Having no real moral ground, Jeff can and does use pin size as a most excellent joke mechanic, whether it be having a deadly laser to attaching pubic hair to his face to look like Fidel Castro. Yeah, bet you're just super anxious now just to see what the hell this is all about, huh? The premise is an 8. The story moves in a great pace and the jokes are unique and funny, and are often relatable. It, however, dwells too much on the same formula in telling those jokes in the beginning, so a little more variation would be warmly appreciated. The art is a 7. It's not bad art, and it sure has its own style. It could use some work and not use the same poses over and over, but Jeff has already showed that he is not afraid to improve, so it's no doubt it will be fixed. The characters are a 9. It is absolutely lovely to see a comic with that many relatable and lovable characters, all with their pros and cons. I couldn't help but several times go, that character is this guy I know, with several of the characters, which just makes it more enjoyable to read. All in all, the comic is an 8. I warmly recommend reading this comic, especially if you're into rock music or you're just looking for a great slice of life comic. I think that about covers all the webcomics I grew up with and read religiously. I'll see you guys in the next webcomic relief. Take...
Not so fast.
Where the fuck are you? I mean... hello there. May I please hear the reason why...
Oh, spare me. I'm just another part of your subconsciousness. You don't need to know more than that.
Wait, what? I thought I had woken up.
Well, you have, but somehow the gateway to your subconscious is still open. That's why I'm here. This whole thing is connected to a little show there, so I want to propose a game.
A game? What kind of game?
It's simple, really. You know that little bar on YouTube?
You mean the like and dislike bar?
Exactly. If you get more dislikes than likes on your silly little videos, you take down the show. If not, I'll pack my stuff and leave. That way it's out of both our hands, making this entirely fair.
Or, and hear me out on this one, you fuck off and I continue with my show. How about that?
Are you sure that you really want to push away a part of your subconsciousness? I'm pretty sure that's not really healthy.
Okay, bitch, you're on!
Great! Oh, and one more thing. I can't have you quit on me halfway. This will be, shall we say, your leash. That little thing will take care of that on its own. Well, let the games begin.